Horizon 6 can do something incredibly funny, but in order for you to understand what I mean by it could do something incredibly funny, I feel like we need some context first. And surprisingly, that context actually starts with Forza Horizon 6. Okay, so you might be a little confused, but what you heard there was a V8 inside of a Miata. Now, the Miata is irrelevant to the point I'm about to make and all the context I'm about to give throughout this video. What is important is the engine itself. The engine itself is a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8, making 455 horsepower. And that's not just some random crate engine. That is a GM engine, specifically an engine called the LT1. And it is used in the Corvette Stingray C7, the base model Corvette C7 generation. And you may be wondering, well, why is this so special to me? It's just an engine. Well, to explain even further why this makes more sense, we have to look at this engine in another Forza game in order for this to make sense. This game just happens to be this is the game but as you're gonna see here on screen, Forza Horizon 2 has an engine swap. It was a fairly common swap of a 455 horsepower 6.2 liter V8, which is again the LT1 engine from this C7 Corvette Stingray. Now, this was interesting for a few reasons. One, the C7 Corvette at this time had literally just come out. Forza Horizon 2 released on the same year that the C7 Corvette Stingray came out. So that's cool. It was cool that the car was not only in the game, but its engine swap was a very common swap to put into a bunch of different cars. Now let's look at something else in Horizon 2, a different car entirely. This car is the 2014 Chevy SS. Now the engine inside of the Chevy SS is another very interesting engine, and that is the 415 horsepower 6.2 liter V8 naturally aspirated. And that engine is called the LS3. It's a very popular engine in the GM lineup. It was used in other cars like the C6 Corvette Stingray, right? Yeah, the C6 Corvette Stingray from like 2008 onwards. So it makes sense that they wanted to add a vehicle that had that engine out of the factory. Now, side note before we move on to the next part, isn't it kind of interesting that the C7 Stingray had the ability to have Hennessy parts on it? So if you really wanted to, you can make a Hennessy Corvette back in the day. It's so weird that this base model C7 didn't come back for that, because that would have made sense. Like, yeah, the Z06 kind of dwarfs it in, interest, but just the fact that we don't make a, Hennessy Corvette, I think that gives more than enough of a reason for it to come back. I don't know, might just be me. But now let's go to move on to our next game. Before I get into it, I just have to say Horizon 3 is an incredible game. I mean, yeah, the single player fell the fuck off, but it's a pretty damn good game. Before we move forward, let's just get some things straight so for us to remember. The C7 Corvette Stingray used the LT1 V8. This engine made 455 horsepower. Remember that. The LT1 came from the C7 Corvette with 455 horsepower. The engine inside of the Chevy SS was an LS3 V8 that made 415 horsepower. Remember this because from here on out, I'm only going to say SS, C7, LT1, and LS3. Now in Horizon 3, let's get to our engines. Something interesting happened. In this game, they replaced the LT1 engine swap with another 6.2 liter V8. And it's one we already talked about. That engine is the LS3 V8. The LS3 V8 took over as the main engine swap. And on top of this, the Chevy SS was a base game car, so now poor people could drive it. And along with the SS being a base game car that anyone can just buy and drive now, they also made it so that engine could be swapped into like a ton of cars. But this came at a cost of losing the LT1 V8 as an engine swap. And alongside that, they also replaced the C7 Stingray with the C7 Z06, which doesn't have an LT1. That one has a completely different engine. Well, somewhat completely different engine, which I'm not gonna get into for the sake of like not overcomplicating things. But just know the C7 Stingray is not in Horizon 3. However, the LT1 did live on in this game. And instead of being inside of a Corvette, it was inside of the Chevy Camaro SS. I almost said Chevy Mustang, that would have been bad. But yes, the LT1 V8 did live on in Horizon 3. This time, instead of being in a Corvette, it's inside of a Camaro. So technically, the LT1 is still in Forza. So that's cool, and I fuck with that choice. I like the base model Camaro. It's a nice little humble car. But back to the LS3. The LS3 became like the main V8 swap that you would think about in this game, or that you would know about, that you would hear. It was more readily available in even more cars, and alongside that, the car that it came from was also in the game. The Chevy SS made it into Horizon 3 as a base game car that literally anybody can drive, as opposed to being DLC in Horizon 2. With that, the LS3 V8 replaced the LS1 as the main 6.2 liter V8 swap. The C7 Corvette was not brought back in Horizon 3, but the LT1 lived on in the Chevy Camaro SS. Also, I know someone out there who knows this obscure fact is going to say it. I know some people are going to mention the 6.2 liter V8 that has 510 horsepower in Horizon 3 that shows up on some cars. This is not an LS or an American V8. This is a German V8 from the Mercedes C63 AMG Black Series, which is available on most European cars. But just now that we have that all out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to our next game. I'm not gonna lie, when I first played Horizon 4 back in the day, I loved it. But when like the third year of its life cycle came around, I started to hate the game. And for a long time, I just thought like this game was absolutely terrible. I didn't like it. But then like a year and a half ago, I returned to the game, and now I like it again. Although it's definitely not my first pick of a Horizon game to play. That's not all important information. What's important is our cars and their engines. And this is where things got really weird. So first off, let's look at the LT1 side of things. So again, the C7 Corvette did not come back. Instead, it was replaced with the Z06 Corvette. And also, a cool little addition, the ZR1 C7, which is very cool. And the LT1 engine, as far as I know, the more modernized LT1 engine of the time, did not return. If it's some other car that's in the game, then, you know, whoop-de-doo. I mean, I guess technically it is in the C4 Corvette, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a very different, very older LT1 V8, so I don't really count that. So yeah, as far as I know, the LT1 is just nowhere to, the modernized LT1 was nowhere to be seen in Forza Horizon 4. Now let's look at the Chevy SS and the LS3 engine. So thankfully the LS3 engine still remains as a very popular engine swap, although something interesting happened. For some reason, the Chevy SS was technically not in Horizon 4. Now, you may be wondering why I'm saying technically. That's because the SS is technically in Horizon 4, although it's a different car entirely, almost. Instead, the Chevy SS got replaced by a Holden, and I completely forgot the name of this car because the name of this car's name is just a bunch of letters put together. So here it is on screen, the car that I know. And this is basically what Chevy would have done with the Chevy SS over here in the States if it actually got popular enough. The Gen F is the Chevy SS, but with a different engine and a very cool body kit. Now, I won't go over all of that stuff, like the engine and all that, for the sake of simplicity and not confusing anyone. But back to the task at hand, the Chevy SS itself, in its base form, is not in Horizon 4, but weirdly enough, its engine swap was in the game. Now, this is strange to me for a lot of reasons because I don't fully understand why the engine swap would be there, but the car wouldn't be in the game and available to drive. That just seems really weird to me. I don't understand the logic behind that. It's like if they had the V10 swap from the Lamborghini Huracan, but then the Huracan wasn't in the game. Like, I just don't get why they would do that. So it was very weird, it was very strange, and yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Okay, now moving into our next game, which I don't have an intro for because I didn't pick up any FH5 gameplay. So we're working off of a just trust me bro situation here. Now in FH5, the same thing happened as FH4. The Chevy SS, the C7 Corvette Stingray, both did not return. Neither did the modernized LT1 V8. But yeah, now that we got that out of the way, of the LS3 LT1 and the C6, I think you're starting to see a little bit more of where I'm going with this. Because in Forza Horizon 6, as I showed you earlier and heard there, you heard a V8, but as you saw, it's a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. This engine is the LT1 from way back in Horizon 2, coming back as an engine swap. Now that's very interesting because this would be the first time the modernized LT1 would be back in a Forza game since Horizon 2, which was what, 2016? Now again, I probably missed a car that had the modernized LT1. So, you know, if I missed that, then damn, whoops, I guess. But as far as I know, this is the first time the modernized LT1 has been in a Forza game as an engine swap or just as an engine in general since Horizon 3. That was the name of the game, Forza Horizon 3. So now you may be wondering, what is the incredibly funny thing they could do that I'm talking about? Well, I was just thinking, wouldn't it be hilarious if this engine swap came back, but then the C6 Corvette didn't come back, and neither did the Chevy SS or its LS3 V8 swap? Yeah, that was the build-up for the whole video. I'm not sure if you're disappointed by that build-up, but yeah. But wait, that's not all. I do have a little bit more to talk about. Now, there's probably the question, why was the LS3 such a popular V8 swap in Forza games, and why was it so readily available? Well, this actually takes from the real world. Around the time of 2016, when, you know, car culture was becoming more and more common knowledge on the internet, one huge thing people were doing back then were V8 swapping cars, specifically the LS3 V8. or just LS engines in general, because they were all very cheap and easy to find since they were in so many vehicles from the mid 2000s. Which is why the LS3 is just so common in Horizon games. Because just like in the real world, it's super easy to find, it's super cheap, and builds dummy power very easily. As opposed to the LT1 not being so common, is because you have to pull that engine from much more expensive cars. Like a C7 Corvette, a Camaro SS. I believe the LT1 was also in a few Escalades and Tahoes and Suburbans of the time. Probably some Silverados as well. But yeah, that was the thing. You had to pull the LT1 from much more expensive vehicles of the time. So even by today's standards, you know, a Stingray C7 is not a cheap car to find and just rip the engine out of. But again, with the LS3, they were in vans, SUVs, trucks, sedans, and like everything back in the day, man. And you could just find them anywhere from like dirt cheap cars and pull them, throw that in your shitty little S chassis, and there you go. You have a homemade Corvette, I guess, in a way. But yeah, the reason why the LS3 was so popular was because Forza saw the growing trend online of LS swaps. So they said, hey, the LT1 is a cool and impressive V8, but I think the fans of our games would much more prefer to do an LS swap, just like they're seeing all these content creators do online. And honestly, it was a smart move. It made sense. But yeah, that brings us to Horizon 6, where again, the LT1 is going to apparently, as it seems, be the main engine swap across cars. Which is going to be very interesting because that makes me think, are people just tired of the LS3 now? Which, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It's been like, what, 8 years we had the LS3 as a main swap. It's nice to have some change. And honestly, it's a pretty good change because this LT1 sounds really good. But yeah, I think that's all I have. You know, rest in peace to the Chevy SS. It deserved to die a better death than that. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you for listening to my little autism rant. If you want to see more stuff like this, I am working on another project somewhat similar to this, but instead it's for a very different car. So yeah, thank you for watching. Go ahead and like, subscribe and shit. I'm gonna be playing Horizon 6 when it comes out. And yeah, thank you for watching.